Hello everyone and welcome to the round 12 trade targets and preview live stream from Talks NRL SuperCoach. How are you all going? Few people in the chat already, which is great to see as always. Thank God he's back from Jake. Yay, the hair is back. I gave you guys a stream last week, didn't I? So it wasn't all too bad. Like I did show my face at least once. Hopefully the room's not too echoey. Apologies, it's a little bit rushed and a little bit around and stuff in terms of the timing of the stream, but just had a few things crop up. But hopefully it's not too echoey either as well. I filled the room back with stuff again, so hopefully it's not too bad, but just let me know, of course, if there's any issues with the audio and things. Paul Abel, thank you so much for becoming a member. Very much appreciate that. Also, I think the slides might be a little bit light on compared to what I would normally want to have prepared. Like I wanted to put something together on second row forwards, but just ran out of time. So we'll talk through that anyway, but it doesn't have like its own dedicated section, but we'll answer the questions anyway. But hopefully maybe it gives more time for a bit more Q&A. Love you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. That's very, very kind of you. Aman, missed you last week. As I said, I did a stream last week. Aman was unfortunate. Didn't see you at Magic Round. Speaking of Magic Round, that was an awesome weekend. Had a lot of fun. It was great to see a lot of people out there who came up to me and said hello and stuff. That was always really, really nice. And obviously I got to meet a few of the other podcasters and content creators as well, which was awesome. So yeah, it was a really fun weekend. Definitely encourage those who haven't yet gone to go. Like, just atmosphere was pretty awesome. Like, just you've got rugby league fans of every team in Brisbane at the same time. So you're just seeing everyone's jerseys all around you. So the vibe is really good. Like, there's a great buzz around, and a lot of fun times were had. Although it got a bit colder in the evening than I had expected, so I'm a little bit sick, if I'm being honest. My throat's not probably quite where it wanted to be. That probably didn't help that I was having a few beers as well, of course. But look, had to enjoy myself. So it is what it is. How did I pull up yesterday? Still feel a bit dusty from Matt. I feel okay, actually. Yesterday was a little bit tiring and didn't have the best sleep because I also stayed up on Monday morning to watch the final day of the Premier League. So yeah, I can admit yesterday probably wasn't the best, but today I'm definitely feeling better. So, which is good because it means I can stream. Hey man, Big Dog, Lawrence, any chance Hopgood misses the Queensland bench from Cam Warren? I feel like Hopgood's going to make that Queensland team, if I'm being honest. After trades this week, I only have 21 left. Is that low? What games did I go to? On the trade question from Mark, I think it's fine. I'm hoping to save trades actually this week. Spoiler alert. So, if you want to wait until the end to see my team, it's not going to change from last week, so most likely. Anyway, sick or hungover? Nah, I would definitely say I'm on the sick end here. Throat's a little bit sore, so if I have to mute myself to go for a cough, that's why. But yeah, look, as I say, it probably didn't help that I was out having a couple of beers and enjoying myself as well. What games did I go to? I ended up going to every single game. So I flew up from Sydney, so I was like, well, I'm not going to be here. This is my first time ever being in Suncorp as well, which I hate to admit, it is a great stadium. Like, there's not a bad seat in that place. But yeah, I figured I was just going to go up and watch every single game. So I did watch every game, enjoyed it. I had SuperCoach relevance, I think, in every single game, except the Warriors-Panthers. But even then, Warriors-Panthers, I wanted to make sure I saw that game because I knew if the Warriors won, the atmosphere was going to be really, really good, which it was. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Which team do I follow? I follow the Roosters. So look, obviously that game wasn't the best for my own team's result, but it was a great watch. There was a lot of good games to watch over the weekend. So yeah, that was a lot of fun as well. And Insight Fantasy guys are streaming right now as well. Unfortunately, I had to do my stream now, but we're clashing a little bit. But I saw a couple of the days with Maddie, so we had a great time as well. We had a lot of fun. So yeah, all in all, great weekend. Can't really complain too much. But back to roll up the sleeves, back to talk SuperCoach content, and hopefully give you guys the good advice. But yes, as I said, I want to reiterate again, it was lovely to meet so many people out there who recognized me or watched the content and said that they really enjoyed it. That definitely was the highlight. And a big shout out to Corey as well, who on Saturday I ended up watching. He's a viewer, and he before the games he was at the same pub that I was at, and then so I recognized he was wearing a Dragons jersey, and then I saw him just standing there on one of the games, and I said, "Oh, hey Corey, how you going?" And then he's like, "Oh mate, I've got a free seat," so I got a way better seat for the Rabbitohs Cowboys game. Watched the whole game with him, which was awesome. So that was definitely also a highlight. Had a good score last week as well in Magic Round, 1,375. So got green arrows back up to like 13k. So slowly but surely, let's hopefully chip away at the rank. In terms of my trade situation, so I've got 22 left. A couple of people asking about, how many trades do you think you'd be worried about? If I was getting to like 29, if I was starting to get to sub 20 trades, like say 19, I would be a little bit worried at that point. And I do think, it's hard. We've had so many injuries and so much carnage, but any opportunity I think that you can save trades as we come into the origin period, I think will be very, very crucial. So that's what I'm looking to do this week myself, is just use this week as the first time really since round 2 to actually save some trades. I've run out of all my boosts as well. I've used all 5 of my boosts. I used my last one last week, but I think that was a worthwhile boost. I boosted in, what was my trades in the end? I did Trey Fuller, Cleary, and Taylor May out, and I got in Armstrong, Dom Young, and Sam Walker. So I needed to get the Sam Walker money freed up by going Cleary to him. That let me get Dom Young in, and I needed to the other downgrade as well. But effectively, I looked at it as the sacrifice of Cleary to Sam Walker got me Armstrong and Dom Young for Taylor May and Trey Fuller. I think that was definitely worth the upgrade, and obviously Dom Young and Armstrong both scored really well, and we will talk about Armstrong this week too. But yeah, so I think that really worked out for me. So I'm happy with that particular trades. Obviously, I had to use my last boost, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'd say if you're sitting on about 23 plus, I think you're probably okay. But yes, definitely I encourage anyone to start saving some trades. If you've got like more than 25, I think you've been doing pretty good. Alrighty. In terms of the league updates, so shout out to Caitlin, who's actually topping the overall group league at the moment. Actually, do reach out to me, Caitlin. So very, very kindly, Clint, who's actually in 9th, I had put a thing out where whoever's going to be top by end of round 9, eligible for a $100 voucher from Swish to do the celebrity shout out videos. He politely declined, saying that he's actually based overseas, so he wouldn't actually be able to use it. But he said, very, very, very kindly said, just gift it on to someone else. So very, very nice of Clint. But yeah, so Caitlin, at the moment, you're topping by the end of round 11. So maybe flick me an email at my email down there, amantalks1@gmail.com. You're sitting in 5th overall rank as well, which is awesome. We've got Mustafa as well sitting in 9th. So we've got 2 players in the top 10, which is incredible. But yeah, Caitlin, do reach out to me on email, and we can hook you up with a $100 voucher, courtesy from Swish. But yeah, what else to talk about? TLT, to be honest, was pretty minimal. I think there wasn't too many updates coming out of TLT. So I will encourage as well, guys. I think most of the stuff that I've prepped for today is going to be around Armstrong, Falongo, and Talangi. And is it worth still going for them? Is it too late? And then a lot on Cleary. I think I posted on Twitter before on Monday asking about questions and things. And I think the majority of people were asking about Cleary and Munster replacements and maybe what to do with the halfback spot. So I've got stuff prepped for those. After that, I've got a few things, but not like in super detail. So we'll try to keep this a bit more interactive, this stream, and have a bit more questions and stuff. So do keep the questions coming in, because that might prompt me into other The microwave's not on. Okay, you know what? I'll tell you what happened. All right, am I back? Uber Eats delivery arrived. Okay. 4-minute delay due to the microwave. I'm back. Am I back? Sorry about that. Back now. Okay. I'll tell you what happened. So it wasn't a microwave. The microwave did not turn on. What happened was I tried to switch to my other screen, and I've got a Mac, but instead I think it recognized 2 of my 3 fingers, and so it went back to like my previous tab of when I had my stream tab open. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, don't do that. Anyway, I'm not touching it again. So I think that was my own fault. There's no microwave on. I'm the only one at home right now. So the microwave was definitely not turned on unless there's someone in the house, but I don't think there is. But it should be fine. Sorry about that little intermission, guys. Yeah, no apologies for that lag. Don't worry. I'll when I put this back out on Spotify, like the audio, I'll edit all of that out. Apologies. But yes, there's no microwave. That microwave is gone. But yeah, I don't know. Went back to the previous YouTube homepage, and I was like, that's not great. Anyway, we should be fine. Now that we're back on track, okay, let's start talking about some useful stuff instead of my previous microwave, put it that way. So I think, a few of the most top 10 traded in players this week I think number 1 is Dylan Brown, but number 2 is actually Blaise Talangi. And a lot of people online were actually asking me about him for far longer. Like, is it worth actually still trading in these guys, or are they not going to have long enough time in their team to be worth trading in? YouTube. Now, I can assure you, it was definitely on the YouTube homepage. There was no other tabs we were going back to. But yeah, so guys, anyone who's got questions about Talangi and stuff, you can drop them right now. But yeah, so I think what I wanted to show here, a few things happening on the screen. So obviously the 3 main cheapies, I guess, that people are looking at. Armstrong isn't the most traded in this week, but that's because he's got a bye this week. So obviously by next week, he could be the most traded in player, or one of. But you've got Blaise Talangi at number 2 most traded in, 410k. And then you've got Farlonga at number 3 most traded in at 390k. Both of these guys are available at centre wing, which is definitely very helpful. Armstrong is also available at centre wing. Now, very, very simply, a few people were asking if I had to get one of Talangi or Farlonga, who would I get? Simply, I would get Talangi, and that's because of the negative 68 break even versus the negative 4 break even of Farlonga. So that's one thing. Second thing I tried to do is so shout out to NRL Physio for this one, who I did meet on the weekend as well. Legend of a guy. But he's got some expected return dates for the likes of Pappenhausen, Clint Gutherson, and then for Armstrong, we've got obviously Kalen Ponga. So with Farlonga and Talangi, Gutherson could be back as early as round 13. Farlonga could be back, or Pappenhausen could be back in round 15, or it could be 16 or 17. That's kind of the range that he's given in terms of when these guys are going to be coming back. So what I looked at was, so you can see in the table below me, just up until round 15. So even looking at up until round 15, which is maybe when I expect, Pappy is the earliest he's back. Maybe Gutherson will be back at that time as well. I've given each of these guys a 60 average, which I think is reasonable based on Armstrong's averaging 70, Talangi's averaging 59, and he's had 200 plus point games playing at fullback, and he's looked really good as well. Farlonga's averaged 55 as well, which I think a 60 average is not out of the realms of possibility. What I've got is that by round 15, 2 round 13s, sorry. Good point. That should actually be round 14. So this should be round 14, 15, and 16. This is what happens when you try to do things too fast. Okay, so either way, if you look at, say, the Blaise Talangi column, if he scores a 60 this week, he'll make 103,000 because he's got a negative 68 break even. So he'll make, a ton of money. And I think a score of 60 against the Rabbitohs, I don't think is unachievable, right? So I think he's already guaranteed to make probably close to 100k, which is sometimes what we look at as, is it worth trading in a guy in and out? And then even if you got until, say, round 14, he would have made maybe 150k. So I'm looking at it as, I think at a bare minimum, Talangi will make you 100k. There is some talk about, when Gutherson comes back, does he maybe go straight back to fullback? Or does he go to maybe the centres and then maybe Talangi stays in at fullback because he's looked really good, and maybe that's a way to ease Gutherson back in to the Parramatta team. That's something that could definitely happen. So I think Talangi over Farlonga, the main reason is that he's got a bigger negative break even. You might need to use trades on him sooner compared to Farlonga, but it's just, I'm looking at that negative 68 break even and the matchup this week as well, playing at fullback versus the Rabbitohs. And he also plays round 13, which, Farlonga doesn't. And if he manages to sustain the team in round 14, then he's got a game against the Bulldogs as well. I just think he's looked so good that, and, look, obviously the news that Brad Arthur has been let go by the Parramatta Eels. Trent Barrett's coming in, he could maybe have a view on chaining things up, or maybe he might not want to take out Talangi from fullback as well. So you can probably spin any narrative, but I think even if he only lasted at least one more week, yes, you are burning 1 or 2 trades in him, but you should be making at least 100k. And I think this week he'll actually be a very solid play in people's teams. With Fa'alongo, like he's a little bit more. Sorry, I've actually got the prices. I've got the prices mixed up between the two. Oh, I'm having a shocker. So yeah, Talangi's 410k, Fa'alongo is 390k. So yeah, I think with Fa'alongo, he looked really, really good last week against Parramatta, but it is Manly away, which I don't think is going to be as easy. Then he does have a bye, and then it's the Knights, and then by the time Pappy could be back, it's Warriors, Dolphins, Raiders, so it's not bad. I'd say Fa'alongo is more likely going to be staying in that Melbourne team longer than Talangi, based on Pappenhausen coming back, and Pappenhausen maybe coming back a little bit slower. So I think if you're thinking longer-term job security, if you could only pick one of the two, and you're thinking long-term job security, probably say Fa'alongo. But I think if you're thinking who might make more money, then I'd probably say it would be Blaise Talangi, in my opinion, because Fa'alongo does miss out round 13, so that's 1 week his price won't change. So that's kind of my thoughts on those two. I think I still prefer Talangi this week as a trade-in just because of that matchup against the Rabbitohs. Armstrong probably is maybe safer overall because he's got a negative 54 break-even, which is really good, and Pong is not going to be back until at least around 20. So Armstrong, I think in that respects, I'd probably rank him above Fa'alongo, but obviously there's no point getting him this week when he's on a bye. So I think if they were all available this week, I'd rank him Talangi, Armstrong, Fa'alongo. Obviously this week I wouldn't consider Armstrong. I probably still think it would be worth trading in Talangi, and then you could maybe go back. And then if Talangi's out of the team, you could even again go down to Armstrong. You know, you're doing one trade then to collect 100k, which I think is almost just about worthwhile. And this 100k is me giving him a 60 score against the Rabbitohs. It could well be 80 or 90. And and I think he's just been playing so well. Like, watching him on the weekend, he played really well against Melbourne. Played well the week before at fullback. I just look at him as though my feeling is that he should stay in this team somewhere in the back line. And we've seen him play at 5'8" and also in the centres as well. So yeah, for me, Talangi at the moment, I think is the cheapie I'd be going for first. I'm lucky saying, would I go Fa'alongo or Cooler? Probably Cooler. So neither play round 13, so they're both kind of equal on that front. I think Cooler's just going to be playing at fullback for longer. And Cooler, we've got a small thing on him later as well, but he's got a really decent run after round 14. And I think just longer term, like at least with him, even if Turbo comes back, he'll just go back to centre at least. Like at least he'll still be in the team. Whereas with Fa'alongo, he may be, as soon as Pappy's back, he could actually be out of the team altogether. So I'd probably prefer Cooler if I was only getting, one of the two. A few questions coming in about Val Holmes now as well. So I'm lucky saying I have Armstrong and Talangi already for context. So yeah, you already got decent cash shown as well from those two. So I think you don't have to go for the cash cow in Fa'alongo. Someone like a Cooler who's always put up pretty good scores when playing at fullback. I don't mind him as maybe a longer term option compared to Fa'alongo. When do the Origin players start to leave? They leave in round 13. So I might actually segue to that because someone else was asking earlier, could we have a look at the schedule, which we definitely can do. So, and after this, we'll talk about Val after that because I've got stuff on the center wing guns as well. So yeah, on the best draw, so I've used my my ticker and I've basically projected for the next 6 weeks teams with the best draw. Number 1 is the Roosters. So they do have a bye in round 14, which is something to be wary of because that's going to be a week where you have Canberra, Dolphins and the Roosters all on a bye. But if you look outside of that, Canberra, Cowboys in round 13, we're seeing how the Cowboys are defending, which is pretty bad. So the likes of a Dom Young Manu are going to be really tempting. Sam Walker. And then you've got Parramatta in round 15 who are very leaky themselves. Bulldogs and West Tigers. It is a really good run outside of that bye in round 14. So I know people thinking about selling Val to Manu, Val to Dom Young. We'll talk a little bit. I mean, I'll go into it in more detail, but I wouldn't say no to people selling Val to get one of those two because I do feel like one of Manu, Dom Young for this run and for round 13, close to a must, in my opinion, just the way that the Roosters are playing and attacking. I know they lost in the weekend, but they still did score 30 points. and it was the right side that benefited most. So I would definitely want to have at least Manu or Dom Young in my center wing in round 13. And if Val is your way to get there, I can't say no, because I do think that will be very, very crucial in round 13. Other teams that have a good draw, I've got West Tigers actually, so they don't play round 13, but outside of that, got a pretty decent run, which, I'm looking at that thinking someone like a Lockie Galvin, I don't need to maybe rush out of my team. Warriors are actually now up there a little bit because they've got Dolphins, Cowboys and Titans in 3 of their next 4 games that they will actually play. So, we did see them actually score pretty well. So, I think Warriors, someone like a DWZ, if you've held on to DWZ all this time, he could be someone that you just keep. Or maybe instead of, say, going Cooler, if you want to wait, because Cooler does have Melbourne by Penrith, DWZ he's 461k with a 90 break even. He could be like 420k, and if Eshe comes back and they've got a decent run, DWZ, Talangi down to him in a few weeks could make us money. So a few things to consider on that front. And then Penrith, Dylan Edwards. Anyone who owns Dylan Edwards, and if he doesn't play Origin, he's going to be a really, really good hold during this entire run. And then Parramatta. So we talked a little bit about it. They've got Rabbitohs and then Bulldogs in 2 of the next 3. So draw-wise is looking pretty, pretty decent. There's quite a few questions still coming in about Talangi. So people are asking Burbo to Talangi. So Burbo, he has been back for a couple of weeks. Not super, super relevant. So scores of 45-38. He's not really going down in price. So I wouldn't say it's a luxury, because you could make 100k out of going Burbo to Talangi, but he does still have the duel. So it is pretty handy. So he's not the worst hold in your team, Burbo. But yeah, you know what? I like Talangi as a play this week for sure. He plays round 13, whereas Burbo doesn't as well. So that can also factor into your thinking. So I can't knock that as a trade. I do think you'll get at least 100k out of that move. This is an interesting one, DWZ to Talangi. So we did just speak about how DWZ's got he's got Dolphins this week, and then he's got an okay run after that bye in round 13. I would hate to crystallize this kind of loss though on DWZ. If you held him all this time and he's now 460k, I'd be very tempted to just keep him at this point and not sell to Talangi. Whereas a Burbo, someone like a Burbo, you can kind of move on, but someone like a DWZ who could be almost back to a gun when Eshe comes back, I don't mind that, as a player to hold. Like Talangi, I know he looks very tempting. He's 410,000. He's got a really, really big negative break even, and he's just gone 100 plus in 2 weeks. And I can see him getting 85 plus again this week because of the matchup against the Rabbitohs. But, there is a risk with Gutherson coming back that Talangi's out of the team. But again, I'm looking at it as, if you're happy to cull DWZ, you don't like what you've seen in the eye test, then sure, you can sell to Talangi, and you probably you're going to free up 50k, and you're probably going to make 100 extra k. So again, for 1 or 2 extra trades, you're making good money, and you can always go back to DWZ as well, I guess, once you like what you see again. So again, I don't think that's a must trade. Wouldn't necessarily call it luxury, because you do get some benefits out that trade as well. But yeah, not one I'd be rushing to do. My first thought would be, if you have others that you can potentially sell, like some other deadwood centers, and then I'd prefer doing that. But if he's the only one, then I can't knock it. But again, I want to stress that Talangi is not a must-have, because he does have job security risks, but I do think that he's played well enough that he could stick in that team for a while. See, Paul's asking Val to Talangi. We may as well talk about Val. So I've got a slide on Origin players, so this might be relevant as well. So what I've done is I've kind of taken a look at during the Origin period, so rounds 13 to rounds 20. For kind of more relevant Supercoach options who I think are playing Origin. So I've updated this slightly. So I had Cleary and Turbo here before. I've changed that now to Hines and Matt Burton. Then you've got other guys like Fifita, Grant, Reece Walsh. I've got Val Holmes in there, Dearden, Lomax, maybe if he plays. Hamasai, Tabuai Fido. A few other guys who I think could be a chance at playing Origin. I haven't got Dylan Edwards in here at the moment, just because I think that he's going to not play Origin. I just think that Teddy's going to get picked. And I've said this. I think I've said this for a couple of weeks now as well. So just specifically looking at Val, and maybe because I think Val's a big talking point, so we'll kind of focus on him. So with Val, assuming he plays Origin, he'll miss round 13, 16, and 19, but he won't miss any other games during the Origin period. So he'll miss a maximum of 3 games. And then backing up from Origin, I'd say he's got pretty good turnarounds. He's got the 3-day turnaround after the first one, and then it's 4 after the second and third Origin games. So, and generally Val has been someone who has, backed up. If we go back to the Cowboys draw, funnily enough, I've actually got them ranked last between round 12 to 17. So you've got Tigers this week is decent. Roosters, Warriors, Canberra, like the Roosters game away. Obviously Val's not even going to play that one. He'd play against the Warriors at home, Canberra, and then Penrith in round 17. So he's backing up to some tougher games as well. So I can see the merit in selling him. He's 646k now. I think he's got like a 90 break even. So, if someone here is asking about going Val to Lungi, Val to say Farlongo, because that's what gets them the money to upgrade to like a Dylan Edwards, a Joey Manu, or a Sam Hughes. So I think what I would maybe say on that real quick is, so with Manu, they're versing Canberra away, which I don't think is like the easiest matchup on paper, and they had a good win last week, the Raiders. With someone like a Manu, so he's got a break even, I think, of about 77. Edwards has got about a break even of 90. I don't hate that move of going Val. I mean, you know what I would say actually, Hamish, to that specific question. So I get why you want to go Farlongo this week, because he's got the negative break even. What I would suggest is see if you say Farlongo goes up. What did I project? I had Farlongo projecting up to next week. I had him going up to 51k. Let's say he's 450k next week. And let's say Val, who's got a break even of 97 and scores 60 versus the West Tigers. So let's say Val goes down to 630k. So 630k versus 450 for Farlongo. So that's 180k. Assume Manu maybe is around 830 and Edwards about the same, because their break-evens are pretty manageable. Let's maybe just see with 180k, can you still get your upgrade up to Edwards and Manu next week? Because I think what you'd like is you'd probably want confirmation now that Edwards doesn't play Origin, because if you pay up big for Edwards this week and then you find out that he's not playing Origin, that wouldn't be ideal. Same, and with Manu, I think you can afford to maybe wait on him. Obviously, Manu's not going to be impacted by Origin, but the impact will be that, between that whole Teddy Edwards thing, if Teddy doesn't get picked for Origin, Manu's not playing at fullback. And while he's still a really good option, he's not that, oh my God, I'm absolutely in need to have this guy in my team type thing. So maybe I would say, see what you can do in terms of your money and see if that can work. If you say no, it doesn't work, I have to free up that money, even if you don't go Edwards or Manu this week, but you just have to do that one downgrade trade so that you could get either one of Manu or Edwards next week. Look, Val to Farlongo, I don't mind because of that freed up money. On Val myself, I've looked at him and thought I will probably hold him. So 650k. So like I've lost money on him. I spent up big for him. I spent like 800 plus k for Val. And yes, his form is not good. He's not playing well, both from a SuperCoach point of view, but real life, like he's just not looking on it at all. So maybe he doesn't even get picked for Origin. Who knows? So I think with Val, I'm probably looking at it as, I reckon I'm going to give him one more week. And if I find out next week that he plays Origin, Manu's at fullback, and I need 200k, I'll think of something else in my team to free up 200k. And that probably would mean I'll go Val to Manu at that point, because I probably do look at it as, I'd probably get a little bit of FOMO. So I think Holmes to Manu is one of the more popular trades this week, which I think Manu is a better option than Val right now, based on the way that Val is playing. But I'm also kind of looking at it as, we all saw him around Origin period last year, and, he killed it. And like he's got a season average of 55, 3-round averages. Season average is 75, 3-round average is 55. It's a 55 average. Granted, he was very expensive, but it's a 55 average where he's really not done much, right? but he's still averaging like 55. It's not like he's been averaging, 30 or 20, because he's got the goal kicking in him. So, looking at the scores, he hasn't scored a try in the last 3 weeks, and he still has a 3-round average of, mid 50s. I'm just thinking, the Cowboys, I think, have got a pretty good, so round 18 against Manly, round 15 versus the Raiders, 14 against the Warriors, and I think he will back up as well. I don't know, if you've, I think you could easily sell him, because one thing is that the center wing position is really hot. So, center wing position is really, really strong. So, I do see the merit in trading him to like a Manu. Someone here is asking about Val to Lomax. I wouldn't do that move personally, just because Lomax, I think, is a risk of playing Origin. And so, you might be using that trade. It's not like Lomax has got a crazy good matchup this week. Like, Bulldogs away, I don't think is the easiest on paper. And even if Lomax doesn't play Origin, it's Penrith in round 13. So it's not like it's a, oh my God, I need him type thing. Whereas Manu's a different story, because Manu is like, if he plays at fullback next week against the Cowboys, like, would anyone be shocked if he goes 140, 150? That's the kind of player he is at fullback. So I think Val to Manu, I can't knock as a trade, because I think it is an upgrade. But I do think that there is still merit as well in holding Val, because I think he'll play most of the games backing up from Origin. And like, I'm thinking about pedigree. It wasn't that long ago that I was looking at the Cowboys run and thinking Val is a guy that I definitely want to be owning. It's just it hasn't really panned out for him. But like, for example, that game where he bombed a try, he dead set just dropped the ball. He scored 56. If he puts that down, he's probably scored an extra 30 points. I'm looking at a score of 86, maybe 90 points. So then again, the narrative is a little bit different. So I think while he's been bad, he's still very, very capable and has been very close to some bigger scores. So I definitely don't think he's a must sell. I think the only options I'd honestly be selling him this week, really, if you had to do it, I get the downgrade down to say like a Farlongo, or a Talangi to free up bulk cash. If you're thinking of these other centers, Dom Young, because of the negative 11 break even. So like, if he's got a negative 11 break even, if he scores well, he could be about the same price as Manu. If you already own Manu, but you want to double up with the Dom Young, then I can see that move. Otherwise, I would maybe consider just, some of these break-evens I haven't updated, like Garrick's I haven't updated yet. I don't know what I don't know what Garrick's break-even is, but I can find that pretty quickly. 96, okay. And he's not 690k either, he's 753. But so to answer the questions on Val, I don't think he's a must sell. I think I'd lean towards more that he's a hold. But I could very easily see myself going to Manu next week. Someone's asking, if Manu wasn't fullback, is he still worth getting? I still think he's worth getting, because even playing at centre, he's still got a 3-round average of 88. And I think we're still seeing that he's putting up like really good scores. Like, I think if he keeps playing how he is for the season, he could just be an 80 average at centre. But if he plays fullback, then he could be getting the 120, 130s. So I think Manu is still worth it playing at right centre, just based on what we've seen. And we've spoken about Roosters' draw already. I had them ranked best over the next 6 weeks. But then that wasn't even including round 18. And round 18 was against the Dragons. So it's another good matchup as well. So it's a really, really good long-term draw. So I do see the merits in going Manu or Dom Young for Val. But again, I don't think Val is a must sell. So I could very easily see myself selling Val though next week to Manu. But yes, that's kind of my thoughts, I guess, on that whole situation. Someone's saying, is Armstrong the best Taylor May replacement? Armstrong doesn't play this week, so no. But if you need to if you already own Talangi, look, Taylor May I don't think has been named. So you can just wait until next week and go Taylor May to Armstrong, which I think is next week a good move, but not one you need to be doing this week. Would I rather go Walsh to Manu opposed to Val? So we'll quickly circle over to the Broncos draw. So with Reece Walsh in Origin, so he misses 13, 16, and 19. He's very similar to Val, so he only misses those 3 weeks. So he should, I would expect him to back up. His game in round 14 is against the Sharks, then the Rabbitohs in round 15. 17, 18 is tough though. Warriors, Penrith. This is it. I think I would rather be selling Reece Walsh to Manu than Val. Oh, actually, sorry. No, sorry, I take it back. I think if you can keep one of Val or Walsh, I would sell Val instead. I'd rather keep Walsh because they'll both play They'll both play the same amount of games. Sorry, they'll both miss the same amount of games during Origin. Both will be goal kicking, but I think the Broncos, the run is not easiest because 14 Sharks, 17 Warriors, Penrith 18. Some of my colour shading hasn't been updated yet, so I've got Warriors in red, for example. I'd probably switch that to yellow, and I'd probably make the Sharks a red team now, but I hadn't updated the conditional formatting. But yeah, I think I would definitely rather keep Walsh over Val at this point. So yeah, I'd actually, like, out of those two, I would sell Val to Manu rather than Walsh to Manu, in my opinion. Asako 166 break even. Yep. He's got an insanely high break even because, of course, yours truly brought him in after he scored 150. Then he goes on to score, 41 and 45. Trust me, watching that Dolphins game, I was on tilt. I was on major tilt because the first half he had a couple of opportunities on the right side and I thought he just didn't run fast enough to score. And then even at the end, like, they had a penalty and they decided to not take the 2 points. I was like, you don't understand. I need every point I can get. The extra 4 points that Asako could have got would have been lovely. But yes, he has been frustrating. And it's not even, what I think it is not necessarily like Herbie screwing him over on the right-hand side because Herbie's got glue hands. But I think what's happened is that Herbie is back. And so they go to him more often. So there's less plays that actually go down the left side. And then last week against the Tigers, you had Hamiso back. And so a lot of the play was directed through the middle where he did a lot of damage. So Asako just wasn't really needed. So what I'm hoping for is with Asako during the bye weeks, so round 13 against Canberra, 16 versus Melbourne, 19 versus the Rabbitohs, there won't be Hamiso there. And so what I'm hoping is that the ball just goes more towards Isako's wing. But yes, he has been very frustrating. He is very expensive at 812k with a very high break even. I don't think he's a sell though, and that's just because I only got him I imagine most people who got Asako got him in a few weeks ago. I think if you had bought him in, I think you just keep him. He is a season keeper, because even when Herbie was in the team, he still had scores of 80, 106. So he still has the big scores in him. So no, I wouldn't be selling Asako, but yeah, J-Rock, you've nailed it. Frustrating is definitely the word. It's been so frustrating. I wanted to quickly make a comment, speaking of Dolphins players, on Hamiso. So I think Hamiso was actually in the top 10 most traded in players this week. Obviously scored a double on the weekend, had a really good week. Yeah, so he's currently the 10th most traded in. Excuse me, I'm just going to have some water. Yeah, so Hamiso is the 10th most traded in, but I really don't see, unless you're playing head-to-head, but for overall, I don't really see much value in going Hamiso as a trade-in because he misses 5 games during the Origin period. So he'll miss 13, 14, 16, 18, 19, all within the Origin window. So I think if you're spending 645k on a center wing, I wouldn't be targeting Hamiso. I think for not too dissimilar money, I'd probably be getting someone like maybe Karaz instead, who's got a pretty soft run coming up until, say, round 16, and he only misses 15 and 19. So Karaz will cover your buys for round 13 and 16. So I think I'd prefer Karaz, say, to Hamiso as a trade-in. If people are looking at Hamiso, it wouldn't necessarily just be chasing the points. I would probably be, I would instead be going for a Karaz. Hani, if you keep spamming, unfortunately, I will not answer your question. Sorry, put it that way. We'll get to halfbacks in a bit, because I know clear replacements was definitely a big talking point that people wanted covered as well. So I think we've covered most of these center wings. So Dom Young, is he? I don't even know if Dom Young is not in the top 10 most traded in players at the moment. Manu is actually exceeding him, which is fair enough, because I think Manu playing fullback potentially next week would be a better option than Dom Young. If I was getting one of the two right now this week, I'd probably get Manu just because I think that Teddy's more likely to play fullback, and so I think Manu's going to fullback for New South Wales. So I think Manu's more likely to play fullback for the Roosters. So I think he's the one who I'd be more afraid of not owning than Dom Young. And either way, if you at least own one of the two, you'll benefit hopefully from either of the two. Thoughts on Cobbo? Yeah, Cobbo looked really, really good on the weekend. So obviously the benefit with him is that Reece Walsh will go play Origin. And so during then, Cobbo's going to play Origin as well. That's the thing. So Cobbo will probably miss the 3 games. So again, I think I'm at the point now where I'm trying to probably avoid some of these Origin players just because they will start missing games. But Cobbo looked really good. So like as an actual option himself, can't knock it. I don't think he's at too bad of a price. I think he's 564k, so he scored 71 last week with lots and lots of line breaks, so didn't even score a try. So season average of 60 is solid. I think he's a solid option, but again, draw-wise, it's a bit up and down, but he will miss games during Origin, so not my preferred, I guess. I think the other centers that we're talking about is I've got Cooler. We've spoken a little bit about Cooler already. You don't have to rush to get him because it's Melbourne this week, then it's a bye, and then Penrith. But from round 15 onwards, I am very much eyeing up Cooler as an option. But if you wanted to go down in price from someone, but maybe a little bit more concerned about job security of, say, like Farlongo, then I think Cooler around that I think he's still sub 500k from memory. So I think he would be the one who I would probably lean to going first as a cheaper centre wing option. On the halfback, so I think there's a few things coming up in the halfback. So someone actually, Hamish is asking, do we like Wishart? We'll talk about Wishart in a second. So I think on the Cleary replacement, so there's a couple of questions that had come out, which was, do you trade Cleary for Burton, or do you shift Brown to halfback and run with a 5'8" combo of Plath and Galvin? So actually, this is a section I had done that I forgot to even go through yet, because someone was actually asking earlier about Dylan Edwards and if he's an automatic at 900k plus. But one thing I pulled together for this stream I wanted to quickly talk about as well was what positions so far have done the best in terms of point scoring so far this year. No shocker that it's mainly the centers that have done the best. Plath have 74 on base. Have I stuffed that up again? You're joking. I think that's minutes. I told you, this is the problem when you try to do all of these slides in very, very fast time. You know what? I mixed it around. 47 was his base. 74 was his BE. So I was close. Not quite. But yeah, what I was just talking about before was in terms of players who've averaged over 70 so far this year. Centre wings have 10. Fullbacks have gotten 9. Second row forwards 6. Halfbacks and 5'8" combined only 2. Front row forward 1, and no hooker has averaged over 70. In terms of averaging over 65, again similar. Fullback and centre wings 13 each. Second row forward 10. Halfback then does open up quite a bit to 8. So there's a lot of guys averaging between 65 to 70. And then you've got a couple of front row forward and then 3 dummy halves. The reason I wanted to mention this a little bit was, there was this question which was trade Cleary for Burton, or you shift Brown to halfback and then run with a 5'8" combo of Plath and Galvin. I see no issue running Plath and Galvin, to be honest. And with Burton, I think now, I think Burton will be definitely in the Origin frame. And with Burton, he will miss quite a few games actually during the Origin period. So he misses, where did I put this one? Yeah, so Burton misses 13, 15, 16, and 19 if he plays Origin. So that's 4 games that he'll miss. So between, say, round 13 to round 19, that's 4 games. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 4 out of 7 games, which is quite a bit. So I think what I wanted to highlight about going through those averages was that I don't think you need to stress too much about the 5'8". Like in 5'8", you've got Burton and Dillbag's probably the top 2 now that Munster's out. And then after that, you've just got a bunch of guys who are kind of going around the low to mid 60s. So I think I wouldn't stress too much about having a Plath and Galvin combination. As we saw before as well, the West Tigers run, I've got them ranked second over the next 6 weeks. Plath has got a base average of 47. So I think you've got two guys there who can just very easily cover each other. They'll get you about 50 to 55 a week. You can play Galvin on matchups. And I think I'll definitely try to get Dillbags instead of Burton just because of this origin risk. So that makes sense why Dillbags is the most traded in player now that he's available at halfback as well. He's got a good game this week against the Rabbitohs, plays around 13, also plays around 14, and he's a Kiwi, no origin risk. And I think with Dillbags, I think eye test wise, he's looking a little bit better. I think him and Talangi have actually formed a pretty good combo. And so I think Dillbags' form is looking a little bit better. And I think once Moses comes back, then I think he's really going to be benefiting himself too. And you're not buying Dillbags for too expensive as well. Like he started the season at 780k. He's 680k. You're 100k down on his starting price. And I think with a 3-round average of 77, I think Dillbags is a really solid option. So I think people who have got Cleary, I think now that you've got the option of Dillbags, I think that's where I'd be looking to spend first. And a 5-8 combo of Plath and Galvin, I think is completely fine. I don't think you need to stress too much about it because there's not a whole heap of variance between the other 5-8s. But the reason I also put this together was someone had asked a question about hookers, which was about, is it even worth spending the money to go Lussick to say Jeremy Marshall-King? And I think this person was asking to cover Harry Grant. I've got a Harry Grant Lussick combination, and I'm not really looking at one. Again, talking about low trades. I don't really want to use too many trades at hooker just because it's a position that I think I've got Harry Grant who's sweat and forget. Grant doesn't actually have that bad of an origin schedule either. So he has sorry, I'm flicking around so much. So Harry Grant, he will miss only rounds 13, 16 and 19. And he's got a 4-day turnaround after round 14 and then 3-3. I think there's a fairly good chance that Grant will play at least 2 of those 3 games to back up. So I think it's only those 3 weeks that you need to be worried about if you own Grant. I know Marshall-King will cover all of those perfectly. Lussick the only one you're going to miss out on is round 16. But Lussick will play round 13 and he also plays round 19. So it's only really 1 week where you're not going to have cover. And as long as Brendan Hands isn't on the bench, you can at least count on Lussick for like 40 to 45, which in my opinion is fine. Marshall-King is definitely an upgrade because he's been playing very well and is actually scoring pretty decently. So I think to answer that person's question I had before, which was about, is it worth spending the money? It's not worth spending the money at hooker based on, I think, where you want to be spending your money is your center wing, your fullback, and second row, maybe get a few guns in there as well. But center wing is really the position that I think stands out a lot. We had a section before about some of the gun center wings. Like, I would ideally want to get all of them into my team at some point. So I think the money wise, it's probably not worth running 2 gun hookers, but I can see the value in getting Marshall-King to cover Grant in a really good way. And if you've been able to generate enough cash to do that, I think that's probably a worthwhile play to do. But you're only missing round 16. So again, I think it's maybe okay for that 1 week because remember, you don't have to get 2 hookers. You just have to play your best 13 in those major bye weeks. But yeah, going back to the halfbacks and 5-8s, because someone is asking very desperately about helping me with my Luke Brooks situation. Yeah, that's definitely a situation. And that definitely needs correcting because Brooks is not the guy that you want to be owning. And he's 444k. Yuck. So, you know what? Before we get on, so I've kind of spoken a little bit about Dillbags. I think Dillbags would be my number 1. I know, Hanny, earlier you were asking about Jerome Hughes and this other guy from the Broncos. Is it Karapani? If I pronounced that correctly? On Karapani, actually, I think a couple of people have mentioned him. So he's playing again this week because Tony Staggs is out for another week. So I think he's got a negative break even, or a very low one, if I'm not mistaken. He's only played the 1 game so far. So he's bottom dollar, scored 68 points last week. Look, again, with him, I don't think you need to worry about him as a downgrade this week because he won't change in price this week. So I'd probably try to avoid going for him this week. Someone actually asked me, and maybe I've been given a discredit to Jaden Sullivan because the last 2 weeks he scored 64 points and 94 points. So maybe Sullivan needs to be on there. He's 472k. So look, if you do want to replace a Luke Brooks at similar price, Sullivan does have a negative 12 break even. And then after that, he's got the Dragons, Titans. After the bye in round 13, plays Cowboys this week. It's Dragons and Titans. So Aiden Caesar's got a 4 to 5 week ban. So I think Caesar will be back in round 16. So with Sullivan, you just have a risk there. You're only getting for Cowboys, Dragons, and then the Titans. But for a 3-week play, look, he could actually be, an option. So, you know what? Don't actually hate Sullivan for maybe that cheaper option. Other cheaper options that you could consider, the only two really that stick out to me was Wishart and KO Weeks. So Ibrahim was asking about KO Weeks. So I think KO Weeks has actually looked pretty good on the eye test as well. So don't hate him as a downgrade. So he's got the goal kicking, which is definitely helpful. We do like the goal kicking in SuperCoach. Last 2 weeks, he scored 67 and then 69. So two pretty good scores. Negative 28 break even as well. Roosters this week is obviously tough at home, but he does play round 13. One of the only things I'd just issue caution on is if you're already loaded up on your round 14 guys, like like your Roosters players, just be careful with your round 14 cover. You might be maybe a little bit short in that slot, but objectively, I think Weeks I like as a downgrade. Yes, sorry, you're right. He didn't goal kick. Sorry, yeah, Jordan Rapana was goal kicking. You're right. Sorry. Thanks for correcting me, guys. Yeah, so K Weeks didn't have the goal kicking. Sorry, apologies. I was thinking of the week before last. So he doesn't have the goal kicking. Tyron Wishart is 382k, a little bit more expensive. Funnily enough, Wishart actually has some pretty good numbers when he's played either at starting 6 or 7. So if I looked at his scores in the last 2 seasons, when he's played at 6 or 7 as a starter, his scores have been 40, 85, 84, 78, and 40. So that's an average of 65.4. So pretty good numbers, but he doesn't play round 13. And I don't know, there's a part of me that doesn't think that's sustainable. I don't know. There's just a part of me that thinks, I don't know if he's going to be the guy that you want to be. I mean, look, he's 5'8" halfback, so at least he's got that dual flexibility, which is helpful. But I guess that 85-point game against the Sharks, he did score a try as well. I mean, he's already scored 2. He scored 4 tries already this season, which for a guy who comes off the bench is pretty solid. You know what? Actually, this is actually tougher than I thought, because Wishart actually has really good base stat numbers as well when he plays in the halves. So last week, base 26. The week before that, 38. And then in round 3, he based 41 playing at number 7. So 41, 38, 26. So you're probably getting at least 30 in base from him as a starting half. KO Weeks is pretty good as well, though. He's got a base average of 31, so it's not too different. I don't know. Part of me just thinks that Wishart has had some good scores, but I think with Jerome Hughes back, I think Hughes will probably take up more of the responsibility in that team. Last week we had a situation where there was no Jerome Hughes, and also Munster was out. Whereas I think, if I'm not mistaken, the game that Wishart got 85 against the Sharks, there was no Jerome Hughes there as well. So maybe there's a thing. I have a feeling that with Hughes back, maybe Wishart takes less of a role. He does have a pretty good run during Origin, like Warriors, Dolphins, Canberra, Tigers, Newcastle. Yeah, it's a good run. Sorry, I'm actually answering this question in my head live. So Tom, your question about Weeks versus Wishart as a downgrade at 5'8". I can't believe I'm going to say it. I'm actually going to say it's Tyron Wishart. He's only 35k more expensive than Weeks, but they both have negative break even, but he's got a better draw. Doesn't play 13, but he's got really good base numbers, and yeah, he's got a good run during that Origin period. Yeah, and he's halfback 5'8", which could be quite handy. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it's Tyron Wishart. This could be a sliding doors moment. KO Weeks could go an average 80, and Tyron Wishart could just be a dud. But looking at the numbers, which is what we do on this channel, I'm actually going to say it's Tyron Wishart as your downgrade. So there you go. Give the stream a like if you've enjoyed that little breakdown. But I think if you're going for a downgrade at your halfback 5'8", yeah, it would be one of these two guys that I would be looking at. Maybe Jaden Sullivan as well, but he's probably got a bit of a shorter term thing to him with Aiden Caesar probably due back in that team, and I don't think that he will stay there. I think it will continue to be Galvin and Caesar in the halves. So yeah, probably I would actually say try and Wishart, unbelievably. If you're looking to spend up a little bit more money, I've got guys like Dearden in here, Cody Walker, but I think maybe they're risks this week just with Origin around the corner. I still like Sam Walker at halfback. I mean, obviously the best is Nico Hines, but I'm going to assume he's going to be out for Origin. So I haven't considered him at the moment. But if you're selling Cleary and Deal Bags would be my number one. I think plays around 13 and 14, and I think longer term he's probably the best gun that you can keep. Burton I like, except the Origin risk, and I think he will play. A couple of the Dolphins guys, so Max Plath still, if you're interested in him, he's really solid at 513k. You can just bank like 50 points a week from him. Nikorima is 641k, which is a little bit expensive. I'd probably rather Sam Walker, I think, for the same price. And I've got Jerome Hughes here at 706k because he has been named this week. But I do think he is a potential risk because he's just coming back from his calf injury. From what I read as well, he might actually still be a doubt to play because they do have the bye in round 13. So they could just give him another extra week off. And so that way he's got 2 full weeks to recover before he then comes back in round 14. So I think if you're thinking bigger value replacements like higher dollar, Dillbags probably for me would be number 1. Probably still would be Sam Walker number 2. I like Cody's draw. So the draw actually for the Rabbitohs is pretty good. So it's Parramatta this week, then it's the bye, but then it's Titans, Broncos, Manly, a bye again in 17, Para again, Dolphins, West Tigers. Like long term, it's actually a pretty decent run, which for people looking at say like a Latrell, I think maybe could be very interesting to look at. But yeah, so I think Cody's maybe an option. I've never been fond of Ezra Mam, so I might just be too biased against him. But yeah, he's probably not who I would be going for. Dearden, I think with Cam Munster's injury, I think Dearden's now a shoe-in for Origin, so I wouldn't really be looking at him either. So I think Dillbags to me is the obvious one, probably followed by Sam Walker. But if next week Burton doesn't play Origin by some miracle and he's available, he probably would be the best target, I think, as well. So yeah, that's a little bit on the Cleary replacements, and we talked a little bit about the downgrades as well. I'm right with you, Matt. It sounds a bit dirty. It actually does. It like as I said when I first came into it, I was like, oh, it just feels like he's not the option. But then when you just say the name, but looking at the numbers, like, you know what, could actually be very solid. I would say Weeks is a much more exciting player. Like he can get line breaks and stuff like that as well. But Wishart has got really solid base. And, you know, if he jags 1 or 2 attacking stats in this good Melbourne team, look, he still could be an option. And we've seen in the past before, Melbourne Storm cheapies in the spine, Nico Hines, in 2021, ended up actually being incredible for Supercoach. Dearden's break-even is incorrect amount. Okay, it probably was. As I said, guys, I've trying to pull this together way too fast. Money and SJ need to go options. Ryan, I think a lot of these guys that we're mentioning, I tried to in this section cover both halfbacks and 5/8s because I know a lot of people are selling both Cleary but also Munster. So I think nothing I've said there probably really changes in terms of the replacements. Dillbags, if you've already got Dillbags, maybe Sam Walker because I think really good long-term run. And then behind him, I think then you can maybe start differentiating. Maybe you can go down to a really cheap guy like a Wishart and use that money to pump. Like I don't mind going say Cleary down to Wishart, but you get all that money so that by next week you can say I'm getting in. Like let's say Lomax doesn't play Origin, you've got money to say get Lomax and Manu. That's the kind of money. That's the kind of benefit of going really down in price to a cheapie like a Wishart or KO Weeks. So I think we've covered a lot of that. Quickly on the fullbacks, we've spoken a little bit about this. Look at Sam Walker without the huge score and tell me what you think. So I think very quickly on Walker, I was still kind of tempted by him even without that 172 because I know his scores weren't great, but well, you know what? Yeah, look, the scores without that 172 were bad, but I also think the draw they had was pretty tough to start the year. Like Broncos in round 1, Manly game, look, exception, but they lost that game. Souths was fine. He scored 56. Penrith was obviously very tough, 42. He got knocked out in that Bulldogs game, so only scored 3. Then 172 versus the Dragons, 40 against the Broncos, so again tough. 95 against the Warriors when it was a good game, and then 45 against Sharks when it was tough. So I know his average without that 172 is much lower, but I think that they've had pretty tough games. Whereas now I'm looking at Canberra and then the Cowboys. Cowboys especially, it looks really, really good. Other side of round 14, You've got Parramatta, Bulldogs, which is great, West Tigers, Dragons. Like, there's a good long-term run coming up until pretty much round 19. So I think Sam Walker looks like a good option during this little origin period. That's kind of why I still think it's okay to go him. In terms of the fullbacks, so I think I really wanted to use this section for Dylan Edwards because I still don't own him. Yeah, again, this is another thing of doing something like Cleary down to a cheapie. I'd actually be if you already own deal bags, I'd be kind of tempted to do this, go down to a cheapie at 5.8, because I think you want to have this money available for next week, just in case you know that someone like an Edwards is available. Because if Edwards is available, plays round 13 against the Dragons, goal kicking could be a must. Then he plays round 14 against Manly, Newcastle Knights in round 15, Cowboys round 17. Cleary's not going to be there either. Edwards is going to be a death ride still. I don't know if I will be able to own him next week, which is quite frustrating. But yeah, look, I know he's 938k, but he's got a break even 96. Is it going to shock you if he doesn't score that? The season he's put together is incredible. So obviously you can still wait this week because you might want to just get confirmation he doesn't play Origin. But you can't knock scores when he's not had Cleary. Just during the season, his lowest score is 40 points against Melbourne away. We already know he's a high base guy, right? But 116, 120, 119, 95, 111, 120. These scores are no joke. So yes, he is a death ride. He's probably worth the money. He's the highest averaging player so far in SuperCoach. So yep. If you could only get one of Edwards or Manu, so Matt is actually asking this next week. If I only could get one of Edwards or Manu next week at fullback, I'd probably say Manu, only because he is going to be 100k cheaper. And I still think the matchup next week is better, if that sounds crazy. Because Manu will have Cowboys in round 13. I think that's a better matchup than the Dragons at the moment. Then Manu will miss round 14, whereas Edwards will play round 14. So that's probably something else to consider. That's a very tough one. You know what? I'm too unwell to have to think about such a difficult question like that right now. So you know what? I'll defer until next week. But if I had to guess right now, I'd probably say Manu still. But yeah, every time you want the death ride, he gets 85. I know, literally, he can't put a bad score, which is annoying. Look, at the game, when I saw him cross for that try very early on, I did make a very audible FO, because I was like, you're joking. He's going to score this try. He's guaranteed to get 80, 90 points minimum and not go down in price. So yeah, not fun. I do think Latrell, though, I know I'm personally scarred from Latrell from earlier this season, but objectively, if he's not playing Origin, he is a valid option at fullback, because Parramatta this week is good. Misses round 13, but then it's the Titans, Broncos at home, Manly, not bad. Plays round 19 against the Dolphins, and then Parramatta again in round 18. So there's a few good matchups coming in there. He's goal kicking. We know what he can do. He only needs one or two big plays to score well. He had that try that he ran through about 4 blokes. Got the goal kicking. So look, the last 3, his last 4 scores, 107, 70, 73, and 69. He had one game of 36 against the Roosters. Then it's 80 and 110. He's averaging 78 for the year. He's not having a bad year for SuperCoach. It's just that the Rabbitohs have been terrible. But really, if you look at Latrell himself for SuperCoach, he's actually scoring fine. So I don't think there's actually anything wrong with considering Latrell. If he won't play round 13, so obviously that's a different thing. But people who are looking at maybe Latrell, I wouldn't sell the likes of, say, a Drinkwater, but yeah, someone like Latrell I think is actually perfectly fine as an option. If you just look at what he's delivered, his goal kicking, pretty good run. Yeah, just wanted to make that comment on Latrell because I know a few people were looking at him. So I think we'll touch on captaincy now. I think a few people asked about that, and then I'll quickly show you my team, and then we'll do some questions. I haven't even eaten dinner yet. My God, and I need to leave here in about 10-15 minutes. So you know what? Let's get on. Let's do this pretty fast. But should hopefully be able to do a Thursday Q&A stream, guys. So if I don't get to any questions today, we'll try to get to more specific stuff for the Thursday pre-lockout stream. So don't worry if I can't get to anything. I didn't really comment on CNK as well, but yeah, CNK could actually be an option too, but probably need to move along to the next up. But in terms of captaincy for this week, it doesn't feel super obvious because a few of the better teams are kind of having maybe slightly tougher games. For VC options earlier in the week, I'm probably looking at that Dragons Bulldogs game. So, I've got Karaz here, but if you're a Matt Burton owner, I think Burton is definitely one that you should be considering as well for a VC. In fact, if I had Burton, he probably would be my VC against the Dragons, because he's just been really consistent the last 5 weeks. He's been good for 80s and stuff over the last few weeks. I'm just quickly trying to pull up as well how have the Dragons gone against opposition 5/8s from a Supercoach point of view. So they have been 10th against 5/8s, 5th against halfbacks. So not a bad matchup. So yeah, I think I like I like, sorry, what am I doing? Yeah, I like Karaz or Burton as VCs, or Lomax maybe as a VC as well. I've just realised I've had a glaring omission. I haven't put anyone from the Roosters in here. Roosters against Canberra, it's an away game, but... So they play 3 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah, look, it's probably not a bad shout to just go VC Teddy or Manu or Dom Young. If you don't really have any options in those first 3 games... I think those are also worthwhile shouts. I just don't think I put them there originally because I thought the matchup maybe wasn't the easiest on paper, but yeah, definitely think I definitely don't mind the Manu VC shout. Captain as well maybe is a bit of a stretch, but and we know that he's got the highest base power work rate of any centre this season so far. I think it's a 53. Dom Young as a captain, look, there's probably no reason to not captain him based on how he's been going. It's just that we know that he can have a score of 30. It just feels look, the score for 30 hasn't happened for a while. The last 4 weeks, 88, 84, 160, 97. Not bad. Look, you could just go Captain Dom Young as well, but yeah, I don't think I'll be excuse me, I don't think I'll be actually probably captaining Dom Young anytime soon, just because of my fear for what he could get on the low end of things. But yeah, so I think at the moment I've got VC Karaz in my team, or I go VC Drinkwater against the Tigers at home. You could obviously go VC Val Holmes if you don't own Drinkwater. Kind of signed with, honestly, this might sound crazy, but I haven't put him here. But one matchup I do like is that Parramatta versus Rabbitohs game. It does feel like a game that does have points in it. Blaze Talangi playing at fullback versus the Rabbitohs. He could also be a captain shout. He could be a captain option. I've got Dillbacks here just because Rabbitohs have conceded the most points to opposition 5/8. If I have a quick look-see to what that looks like for fullbacks. What do you know? The Rabbitohs have conceded the most points to opposition fullbacks. Interesting. Blaze Talangi captain, anyone? So thinking about it a bit more, I'm now thinking of going VC Drinkwater and captaincy either on Dillbags or Blaze Talangi because of the Rabbitohs matchup. You could obviously easily go for I think the safe option is Edwards or Hines, just because we know that they're safe options, both goal kicking. I think Hines has shown even in tough games, he still can score pretty well. So I think your safe options are one of them two. I think you're more trying to target the matchup as the likes of Latrell, Dillbags, honest to God, maybe even Blaze Talangi. Drinkwater, I still have some faith in Drinkwater. I've captained him the last 2 weeks. Hasn't quite worked out, but he was very close to scoring a try towards the end of last week's game, which would have put him over the 100-point mark as well. If I had to VC Drinky or Val, I'd much rather Drinky. I think just form-wise, eye test-wise, he's looking better to me than Val is at the moment. So I think I would be preferring Drinkwater on that basis. Someone's saying I'd captain Walsh with no Reynolds. Yeah, I'd be pretty happy to captain Reece Walsh if you didn't have Adam, even without Adam Reynolds. Titans at home is still a good matchup for points. He's goal kicking as well. So I think, excuse me, I think if you're a Reece Walsh owner, I probably would have captained Reece Walsh, and I probably would go VC on Hines maybe. So I think VC Hines, Captain Walsh could be a very safe play for a lot of players out there. Excuse me. Otherwise, another safe captain shout is Fafita. Fafita, he's that kind of player who he'll probably pump out a 75 to 80, not doing much. His lowest score this season is 57, and that's when he played 55 minutes. Fafita's scores are just ridiculous. I'm just looking at it now. 81, 71, 86, 126, 84, 98, 89. Just captain Fifita, honestly. He'll give you like 85 points basically. And I think Broncos, ex-club, all that kind of stuff. I think Fifita would also be a very safe option as well. I'd prefer Walsh just because of the upside maybe, but at least with Fifita, you know that you're likely to get a minimum of like a 75 to 80 score. Captain Drink or Latrell. I would actually captain Latrell. So I think Parramatta is a good matchup for point scoring. I know they've just sacked Brad Arthur, so there could always be this new manager bounce. But yeah, Latrell, he's got the goal kicking. So I think I'd rather. And I think Rabbitohs weren't bad last week. I think they were definitely improved. So I think Latrell actually I'd probably prefer to drink water. All right, guys, we've been going on for a while. I will quickly try to show you my team if I get this up properly. But yeah, guys, do give the stream a like if you have enjoyed it so far. I think you should be able to see this. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, don't worry, guys. In terms of if there's any other questions I haven't been able to get to, I will be doing most likely a Thursday Q&A stream. So hopefully I'll be able to tackle your questions there as well. But yeah, in terms of how my team is looking for this week, also let me know if you can see it because I've had to change something on my end. But yeah, with my team, early thoughts actually is to not make any trades. So I had wanted to speak a little about second row forwards because I know Eli Katoa was the fourth most traded in second row forward. He probably is the best one to go for as a gun because of the other players being out for Origin. So Eli Katoa I like as a trade-in as well for this week too. So I think not great having to play Sean Lane, but I do really want to save trades ideally. The only thing I was thinking about, which I posted on Twitter earlier, was maybe like a Hylam Lukey. He played about 60 minutes last week, but poor guy, he's very injury prone. Like he's gotten a lot of injuries and a history. So he played 60 minutes last week for 52. He's 381k. So like he could be someone I get out for Joe Chan. But what I'd rather do, now that I don't have any boost left, I'd rather sit on my hands this week, just see what unfolds with Origin, any shock announcements and things like that. And then next week in the bye week, you still get 3 trades to use because it's a bye week. So that's what I'm thinking of doing because, someone mentioned it in the chat here about maybe selling Angus if he gets picked for Origin because, look, Angus he's got 112 break even. So we could be cashing him next week for like 850k potentially. You could be going Angus. I could go Angus down to, I don't know, Jacob Preston. Free up 300k, and that could be what I do to go Val to Manu, for example. But to me, it really feels like I need to see Origin teams to make those kind of decisions, which is why for this week I'm thinking of kind of sitting on my hands and not making any trades. At the moment, I've got VC Carraz, Captain Drinkwater, undecided at the moment because that's a 6 o'clock game on Friday. As I said before, it could be Talangi, honestly, as a captain because of that Rabbitohs matchup. It could be Dillbag still. But I'll kind of confirm that on Thursday. But that was kind of where my head was at when I originally put this team together. Not playing Iro at this point just because it's against Panthers. I know Iro's solid. Without that try assist, he was probably looking at about 40 to 45. It's Penrith, so I'm happy to not play him. I like Galvin this week against the Cowboys because Cowboys can't defend. So I'm happy to play Galvin this week. Walker against Raiders I'll play as well. So that would be how my team's looking at the moment in the backs. And then forwards, unchanged. Haven't really spoken about front row forward. I know there's been things around potentially Terrell May not being available, all this kind of stuff. At the moment, he's been named, so I'll keep him. Josh Curran has also been meh, but like honestly, the best is AFB, and he even played pretty reduced minutes last week as well. He only played 49 minutes last week in that game. So even for Noel Blake, not like rushing to buy. He's got 101 break even. So front row forward's a bit meh, but it's a meh position. Thank you, Alex, for gifting 10 memberships. That is extremely generous. Guys, give Alex some love in the stream chat. So, do I think Billy would do DC 7, Walker 6? Nah, I think Dearden has been in that camp for a while. He played really well in Origin on his debut. I feel like Dearden or Ezra Mam, I think they're probably ranking above Sam Walker for that position. Aman, Josh Curran's minutes a worry. Yeah, they are a worry. But as I said before, like at the moment, front row, there's no one really standing out as like a must buy. So apart from Tom Hazelton, because he keeps bloody scoring tries, but he is what is he? He is 638k. Tom Hazelton. He is the cash cow that we all needed at the start of the year in front row. He started the season at 358k. He's now 638k. He's gone up almost 300,000. What a man. Got a 5-round average of 71. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tries as well. Machine. Anyway, front row is just kind of the position where I'm just like, there's not much happening at the moment, so I'm just going to kind of leave it there. Madison as a pod. I mean, Madison was ruled out last week. I can't remember why. But yeah, he's kind of giving me vibes of he's that price for a reason. 440k. So at the moment, not really super interested, I guess, at the moment. Does Haas usually back up from Origin? I can't remember from memory, but I mean, he's the kind of player who, to be fair, the Broncos had a period where they won games even without him. So I could see Haas getting rested. So yeah, I think hard to say, but I think generally he's the kind of player who can back up. But I'd probably say he's likely to back up 2 out of 3 games, and maybe he misses 1 a game for an extra rest. Aman, what do you do with Cotter? I think if you're on Cotter, again, front row, like, look, he's 641k, so he's at a decent price. But I know last week was low, 37, but the week before that, 67, 99, 65, 55, 54, 68, 50, like, he was solid as. So I think one bad week shouldn't mean that you now sell. I mean, yes, he will miss games through Origin, but again, front row, if you've got Sam Hughes, you can just plug him there in those weeks that Cotter's out. I don't think Cotter is a must sell. You can kind of just save your trades at the front row, I guess, is how I'd be looking at it. All right, guys, I think we might wrap up the stream there. Apologies for some of those technical difficulties earlier. I'm hungry and I haven't had dinner yet, and I need to actually leave the house very soon. So I think we'll probably wrap up the stream there, but hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will be back on Thursday, most likely, for a Q&A stream. So any questions I haven't yet got to, we'll definitely try to cover all of them there. But hopefully you all enjoyed it. Do please give the stream a like on the way out if you did enjoy it. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers and have a good rest of your evening. See you in the next one. Bye.